first.
Both teams lacking their primary scorers. Game was exactly what we thought, and the Jazz then blow the Magic out in the second half. Brice Sensabaugh with a homecoming to remember. We're talking about it next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The players are going.
Jazz win it tonight by a commanding second half blowout. Final score 105-92. Game wasn't actually that close tonight. Game was tied up at the half at 43. Yeah, at 43. That's what you get when both teams are really without any scores. Collin Sexton was the only guy on the team, on either team, played average more than 10 points a game at 18. Kessler then for the Jazz was about 10.5, and the Magic's leading scorer coming in was Gogo Batadze, who averages a little under 10 points a game at 9.5. And that's what the way this game felt. And then the second half, the Jazz just kind of they just played better basketball. I don't have like any great insight to it, Ron. I just felt like they were executing better. I mean, the first half, the Jazz offensive execution in the first half, they were a 48 offensive rating. I mean, they just couldn't score. Neither team could score in the first half. Jazz finally broke through a little bit in the second half to be able to get some offense out of the half court, score a little bit more easier, and then that really stretched the game.
Well, Sensabaugh, and then the fact that the Jazz were able to get 52 points there in the paint. I mean, that's can destroy a team. I think they only shot 47% from the field, so that didn't overwhelm anyone. 11 for 20, 32 from the 3-point line for 34%. They were just played just a little bit better, I thought, than the Magic. The Magic just are not very good.
Well, not with that team. Without Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, yeah, right. I mean, they're missing 4 or 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the thing that jumped out to me, Ron, is what the Jazz didn't do tonight. So they didn't turn it over a bunch and let the Magic get in transition and score a bunch. The Magic got in transition a decent amount, but they actually weren't great in it. They were 1.15 points per possession. Jazz were much more efficient in possession. The Jazz turned it over some tonight, and it's a little skewed because they did it a little bit more late. They turned it over 8 steals. At one point, though, in the game, when it was still kind of in doubt, they had 6 steals, and the Magic only had 6 points off those steals. Like, points off turnovers is a little bit of a silly number because it counts every turnover. You're really talking about points off steals when you turn it over and they get a layup the other way. The Jazz only allowed 6 points off steals when the game was still in doubt. They didn't really get crushed on the offensive glass tonight. The Jazz defensive rebounding has been really, really good. So the Magic weren't getting just easy baskets out without offense. They were forced to try to make shots, and this team doesn't have players who can make shots.
And I really think that the turnover that the Jazz had, they were trying to make some plays and make those kind of things out there on the floor that you would think that would create turnovers. But what we were expecting that the Mavericks didn't do. I mean, there was no full court pressure for 48 minutes and trapping defense in the half court. There was none of that. But the Jazz turned it over late, and they still gave up 19 points off of those turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, don't misunderstand. The half-court offenses by the two teams, the Jazz were a 76.8, which is in the 8th percentile of all performances, and Orlando is in the 6th percentile of all performances with a 74.4. So when you start to dig in, like how the Jazz win it, well, I think they got 18 free throw attempts or 16 free throw attempts. The Magic had 0 in the first half and only had 4 later. So, you know, the Jazz just didn't lose this game on the fringes, and that's what you kind of knew coming in, is that when their leading scorer is Gogo Batadze, they're going to have a hard time scoring, and that was abundantly clear as the game went on. They just did not have, I mean, some of the numbers I'm going to guess are, you know, Cole Anthony, 5 of 14, Caleb Contavious Caldwell-Pope, 1 of 8, Caleb Houston finished 3 of 10 on all threes, but I think he made his last 2. I mean, it was pretty ugly to watch them fire up these shots, not just threes, anywhere. I mean, they ended by the end, they started gunning it, but they at one point were sub 33% from the field, sub 25% from 3, and sub 50% from the free throw line. They were lacking offensive skill tonight.
And what they don't have a Brice Sensabaugh. They don't have a Collin Sexton on their team that can put up some points in a hurry and some big points in a hurry. And so they were scrambling. I mean, Cole Anthony, I thought was trying to penetrate and kick it to guys that he thought could shoot the basketball. They just could not put the ball in the basket. So the difference in this ball game is the fact that Sensabaugh, who continued to shoot the basketball very well, Collin Sexton did get things going there late, and then Walter Kessler, rebounding and making things happen.
All right, we'll talk about Walker Kessler, and we'll talk about Brice Sensabaugh as we continue on today's program as the Jazz pull this one off in pretty commanding fashion, and we'll give our reliability pluses in a moment as well. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money doing great things for you. Well, you have that subscription you might not be aware that you still subscribe to that you need to forget or you need to stop paying. Well, that's definitely happened to me, and I'm sure it will happen to you too. If you subscribe to Rocket Money, you'll find out all of where your money is going. It's so easy to track, and they'll track them for you. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money, personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscription, monitor your spending, help you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members $740 a year. It's one of the best features out there. Check it out. The goals feature is also great. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's show is also brought to you by TurboTax. I hate to break it to you, but that's what the new year means. And it is time for Intuit TurboTax to help you out. Are you tired of endless waiting, worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. Taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions, whether you got one form or 20. TurboTax experts give you the taxes undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress, so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready for stress-free taxes? Most money back guaranteed. Head over to TurboTax.com. Get matched with your expert who's ready to take off with their taxes and get it off their plate. Only available at TurboTax Live, full service, real-time updates only in the iOS model app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Brice Sensabaugh back home in Orlando's leading scorer, second straight night. What are you seeing out of Brice?
Well, his confidence is definitely there, and it's not like he's forcing shots or he's throwing up every time he touches the basketball. He's just been very efficient. He's playing his game. He's getting the type of shots that he knows, or he thinks anyway, that he can make. His confidence is definitely high. I mean, let's look at this now. He played 28 minutes, and he gets up 19 shots. That's
probably a little high.
But he's still feeling it.
Right. A little high, except on a night where you don't have Keontae George, Lowry, Markin, that's your job. I mean, there is some level that these nights where everyone's missing are easier for a guy like a Brice Sensabaugh or some of these other players because they get to go back to doing what they're comfortable with. And what Brice has struggled with is trying to figure out how is a guy that is always been a number one option going to play with players, often four guys that are better than him on the floor.
So do you think that he struggled with having to play without the ball now in the league and playing at this level than he did when he was in college? He played with the ball in his hands a lot in college. I know you watched it.
All the time. Like okay, they were bad, and he was the offense.
So now he has to play without the basketball. So that adjustment is he had to make.
Right.
And I think he's probably doing a very good job, but strictly because if you watch his catch and shoot, I mean, he's setting up very nicely and getting a shot off in good time.
You know, the thing is, the only thing I really think he's going to have to change is, frankly, he can shoot that three anytime he gets it. So it's the drive to the basket. He doesn't have the explosiveness to get to the rim every time. So he likes to spin back and fade away in kind of that mid-range 8-footer. Like, unless he's making that at 55% of the time, which he's not right now.
So, David, what do you use?
Well, then you got to pass. You pass.
Use your body. Use your body. I mean, he's strong enough to the point where he does not have to jump over people or anything like that. He can use his body. Luka, there's a perfect example of how to do it.
So, no, it's fine if he does it and he drives, but he's going to have to pass.
Yes, okay. That's a good point.
Like my point is he's going to have to pass. Like my pass is instead of that fadeaway 8-footer that's often coming up short and not making it, then, okay, I lost my advantage. I'm not going to make it to the rim. Instead of that, now I've collapsed the defense, get rid of the ball, push it out to the push it back out to a three-point shooter and let it go. That's the next step for him. Yeah. But he's been great. And I think the biggest thing that maybe he's really done here, Ron, is that he can play the game. I think he was caught in between. Like when he was playing with kind of his usual offensive flair, I think he was wondering, is that okay? Am I okay? I think he can play with a little bit more. He's earned the right to play with a little more offensive freedom, to be aggressive, take some shots, be a little bit of a gunner, and then integrate some of the passing in there. But I think he was almost every time he took a shot last year, I think he was like, is that too much? Is that okay? And again, I brought this up on the broadcast a bunch of times. He's only played that was only his 60th game of his NBA season tonight, of his NBA career. He's only played 60 games. He only played 32 games last year.
Well, and again, and I talked about this during the course of the broadcast, the number of times that I've seen Will sitting down with Brice. I don't know what they talked about, but I would imagine that it was all about his game, how he can be effective, how he can help this basketball team. Your confidence has to build. And then, David, the most important thing with guys with talent like that is getting extended minutes, not 3 or 4 minutes here, and then you go sit on the bench. Then the next time you might get 6 or 7 minutes, then you go back to the bench, that kind of thing. Extended minutes, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes at a time to where you can get into the flow of the ball game.
Give me a while before we see Jordan Clarkson. So he's going to get those minutes.
Yes.
And get that roll a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point.
All right, Walker Kessler, I thought was the best player on the court tonight. Probably should have been the best player on the court tonight, and was.
And he was. He's rebounding very, very well. When he only had one block shot tonight, but they didn't tack the rim that often there as well. So it's Walter Kessler's been on fire.
17 rebounds tonight, double-double, 10 points, and then there was really no offense in the first half. Collin did get it going a little bit in that third quarter.
Yeah, Collin is and he's upset with himself when he doesn't get it going. I mean, and he's not going to stop trying to make it happen out there on the floor. And you can see the joy he has and the pressure he puts on himself out there on the floor when it's not working. And then when it starts to work, he's pounding his chest and he's one of those players. It's a joy to watch, but he's also one of those players you love to have on your basketball team.
By the way, I talked to Jordan Clarkson today. It's going to be a little bit, but he sounds really optimistic.
Did you run into him on the elevator?
Nope. We just walked out together today. Okay. But he actually sounded very optimistic about he's been dealing with pain for a long period of time. It should a little rest here after last night, and he should be clear of it coming out of the backside of this. So he's pretty excited about actually where he is, because it's really been hassling him and bothering him. So good news that it'll just be a little bit before he can get back out. Jazz win it by the final score of 105-92. Anybody else you'd like to throw out? Any reliability pluses tonight? Who are you going with?
Well, 2 for sure, maybe 3. And Walter Kessler obviously is going to get one. Sensabaugh. Collin Sexton, maybe the way he came on in the second half. It's like, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, what about Svi or Kyle Filipowski?
I think if I was going to give one between those two guys, it would be Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Kyle probably, this is a night where Kyle should have a good night. And I thought he did what you'd expect him to. He should be up there. He's playing other first-round draft picks. He's playing other players that aren't, big time. And he looked like he belonged with them and did a nice job on that. So I had six straight points when nobody was scoring at one point.
Kyle, Kessler, and Sexton.
Okay, those are our reliability pluses tonight. That is locked. Our postcast for you. Locked on Jazz will come to you tomorrow in its regular form. Jazz sweep the alligator stomp in Florida. Does anybody know that song? Am I the only one? It's a dance, super fun. You can do this. You go, boop, boop. Okay, I won't do any more. See ya. Bye. I deserve a reliability plus for that.